Hello and welcome to Football Manager 2023 Roleplay, a project where we create a player using the FM pregame editor, give him a potential ability of 200, and see if he will become the greatest American footballer ever. Unlike many videos on YouTube, we will not be managing a club, and we will simply watch the progression of this player, Henry Marshall, from the age of 15 to hopefully his eventual retirement. This is a world building exercise where FM23 provides the events and we build a story around those events. And here is our current information about the now 18-year-old Henry Marshall, who joined Liverpool at the beginning of 2025 and has bounced around between the under 18 and under 21 teams. His current rating is at 127, and he appears to be stuck in the youth system. By mid-May, as you can see, it's currently April 18th. By mid-May, the reserve season should be over, and we'll see what he does during the summer, including perhaps a stint with the U.S. national team. Let's play some games and then come back. Okay, you can see that we are now back up to June 11th, 2025, and there is a lot that has gone on. We'll probably end it after this little narrative part. So let's see what has been happening. Let's go to April 19th. April 19th. This was when the under 18 Premier League final took place. Here's our under 18 squad, the under 18 Premier League final. Now, how's the under 18 Premier League set up? It's set up in two divisions, a North Division and a South Division. Southampton won the North. Liverpool won the South, and this was the game for all the marbles to determine who would be champion of Premier League 18. And as you can see, if you've not guessed already, we have a 3-0 victory by Liverpool's under 18 squad. Alex Ditchfield, he scores a couple of goals in that game. A great performance. It's a game, if you look in terms of XG, they should have lost that game, actually. Maloney here with a goal and assist. Marshall had a great game, 7-8. He did all the little things right in that game. There he is, Marshall, 5 crosses. In general, very, very good play from Marshall. It was a championship he was quite glad to have. It was also, as it turns out, it was a game that absolutely no one except for the under 18s in Liverpool cared about, because all the attention was on the senior club. Number 1 Liverpool, number 1 in the Premier League, was going to travel to number 2 Man City. If they beat Man City, they had a very, very good chance of, being so far ahead that they couldn't be caught. However, they lost that game 3-0. They fell victim to to Haaland here, basically. Erling Haaland, he had the 2 goals. That was enough for Man City to pretty much take that game. There were some fine performances by Liverpool, but Alisson, he really just let the team down. And what happened as a result of that game was that it brought Man City within 5 points of Liverpool with 4 games to play. So Liverpool, if they wanted their first Premier League championship in 5 years, they didn't have much of a safety margin left. Now, Henry Marshall, he'd have at least a week of time off. He had plenty of time to rest. And that week, he was actually invited out to the pub by this guy, if I can find him here. Yeah, the hero of the under 18. No, he's actually on the under 21 squad. Excuse me. Where is Ditchfield? There he is, Alex Ditchfield. And I even gave him a little picture here. A future prospect for England. He's an 18-year-old striker. He's been in the Liverpool system for 3 years. And the call came out of the blue, so he never really talked much to Alex before, so Henry went along with the call. And after some chatting about the youth system and clubs and club gossip, Alex asked him, "So, Henry, do you go to church?" And Henry replied that, he didn't go to church. He says, "Well, then, what do you think about Jesus Christ?" And Henry found it a little bit creepy for Alex to be talking to him about religion. I mean, Henry explained that he was a Catholic, but he was a non practicing Catholic. And he felt that, Jesus was all right, but he had serious doubts about Jesus' divinity. After that, they talked another hour about religion, the difference between Catholicism and the Church of England, and what Catholics believed, and their own individual church experiences. Alex then invited Henry to something called Alpha, and Alex said it was just about Alpha is just a bunch of people talking about their faith. And Henry said he'd think about it, and Alex kind of dropped the matter after that. I mean, Henry felt Alex was an okay guy, but religion was always a sensitive subject in the United States. I mean, even for asking about Jesus, his old high school teammates would have called Alex a holy roller. And Henry figured it had to be tough to talk about religion without your teammates, taking the piss, as they called it in England. Up next for Henry was April 28th. This was an under 21 game against the Chelsea under 21s. Let's see if we can find it. Right there it is. Right, this game right here. And why was this game so important? This game was important because a win would guarantee that the Liverpool under 21s wouldn't be relegated to the second division of Premier League Two. And Liverpool tied 1-1. Chelsea had most of the possession this game. Henry, scored a decent 6-8 rating this game. Nothing flashy. Just trying to get by here. The one point that Liverpool got from Chelsea on the road, that was pretty much enough to keep Liverpool in the upper division of the under 21s. Now, the last game of the under 18 squad was this game. It was the FA Youth Cup final against the Barnsley under 18s. Henry would not be called to play in that game. And so on May 4th against the Cardiff under 21s, he would just be an unused substitute in that May 4th game. So he remembered what his host family told him, and in his downtime, he decided he would see some more of the sights of Liverpool. So he visited the Cavern Club. And if you don't know what the Cavern Club is, it's a famous Liverpool venue where the Beatles established their craft as musicians, and they were discovered by Brian Epstein. And he also visited Lucy at the record store downtown where she worked. Now, back to the main club, Liverpool. Now, Liverpool has two things going on, not just one. They are not just playing against Premier League teams; they're playing the Champions League in the semifinals. On the 7th, they beat Napoli 1-0. They go 4-0 aggregate against Napoli. This will put Liverpool in the finals against PSG. That game will be played in Munich, Germany. Now, unfortunately, they visit Everton here. They're on the 10th. They're crosstown rivals at Everton, and all they could do was manage a 1-1 draw. So neither side walked away, but Everton felt they had won that game by impeding Liverpool's march to the title. So after 37 Man City games and 36 Liverpool games, both clubs were tied on points. Now, we keep going back and forth between games here. 21st, May 12th, the last game of his under 21s against Tottenham. That was a 1-3 loss, as you can see here. Now, Henry only played the second half of this game. And since Tottenham scored all their goals in the first 20 minutes, Henry felt pretty good about his performance coming off the bench. Beck only had a 6-4 in the first half, but he had a 6-9 in the second. There's Henry. And he felt he'd ended, his youth reserve season on a somewhat high note. He felt like he had a nice job if he could have played in that particular game longer. So on May 14th against Aston Villa, Liverpool knew that if they had at least 1 point on this one, they were going to they were going to go ahead and win the Premier League. How did it turn out? But no, excuse me, this is the wrong game. They have a game against Tottenham, the defending champions. They win that game on the road 2-1, a very necessary win for Liverpool. Tottenham was actually ahead of XG, but Liverpool, with Luis Diaz scoring that goal in the 74th minute, they scored the 72nd and the 74th minute, 2 points up. They take that game. Very, very important game there. So, a draw against Aston Villa makes Liverpool the league champions. And they get it on the 18th. 2-0 win at home. Goals in the 35th minute by Salah, in the 36th minute by Diaz. They are all on top of visiting Aston Villa. This gives Liverpool its first Premier League championship in 5 years. So a lot of celebration that day. The youth squads celebrate by hitting the streets of Liverpool for a wild after-party club scene. Girls in the streets are flashing their tits. Grown men and boys are resoundingly smashed. Henry said there are going to be a lot of pregnancies in Liverpool tonight. And a teammate said, yes, and half of them will be named Mohammed. So what about Mohammed Salah? How well did he do at the end of this Premier League season? Let's go down there and see if we can find. Here we go. So he wins. So he has a lot of high points. He sets a new average rating record in the Premier League, 7.89. It broke his own record from 2022. He won the Footballer of the Year. It was the fourth straight year he had won it. He wins the PFA's Player of the Year award. It's also the fourth straight year he's won that. The Ederson for Man City, he wins Keeper of the Year, but Alisson is second in that race. Klopp wins Manager of the Year. It's the third time he's won Manager of the Year. And if you look at the Premier League Team of the Year, it's seven players from Liverpool in that group and 4 from Man City. For Henry, this is a wild time. I mean, if you had anything to do with Liverpool, you could pick up chicks. I mean, people who normally didn't give a shit about Liverpool, all of a sudden they were wearing scarves and they were bleeding red. Well, Everton wasn't bleeding red, but this was when if you had a club ID or club paraphernalia or a Wikipedia page that it linked you to the Liverpool Football Club, it really came in handy. Now, at the clubs, Henry would tell his teammates, or rather, he'd have to shout at them, I can't hear a word I'm saying. And they replied, you're not at the club to talk, you're here to fuck. So he and this girl in the club starts doing some dirty dancing, and they went straight to her place where they completed the forbidden dance. Her name was Teresa Hill. She was attending the University of Liverpool near graduation. She had a degree in finance and economics. She didn't care a bit about the fact that he was just 18. Henry liked talking to Teresa. He found her charming, very charming, and he had great chemistry with her. He felt guilty about semi-cheating on Lucy, but Lucy was always busy with something or other. There was work, or there was some other excuse why they couldn't hook up. So Henry and Teresa exchanged numbers. They promised to text each other. Now, before the Champions League finals on the 31st of May, he and Mac Maloney were put back on loan offers. Henry figured that if Liverpool wins the Champions League, that A, he'd have a chance to hook up with some more chicks, and B, he probably wouldn't end up playing for Liverpool and lose in his 30s. So on May 31st, Liverpool met Paris Saint-Germain in Munich, Germany, in the Champions League final. The game was tied in the 78th minute by Mbappe, and that tied it up at 1-1. The game went into extra time. Extra time didn't solve anything, and so it had to go to the penalty stage. And as it turns out, the penalty stage, Liverpool would shoot first, and Milan Skriniar makes his fifth penalty kick. They all make them, and it's all up to Kingsley Coman. If he kicks this one, it goes to sudden death penalty stage. But Coman misses his shot, and Liverpool walks away with their first Champions League since 2019. Well, neither Lucy nor Teresa were available that night for the bacchanal that the Liverpool Academy players were going to hold. That's okay. There was a girl named Priscilla Reed. They exchanged numbers, but when he tried texting her, he got somebody else entirely. I don't know. Maybe he misremembered what her number was, or maybe she gave her the wrong. Maybe she gave him the wrong number. He still had a good time. It almost made up for not playing in the Champions League. So Henry Marshall was finally free of all of his reserve obligations on June 2nd. He ended his B&B lease, and he headed back to Shreveport. He took all of his luggage, what little he had, back home with him. Now, but the place he grew up in was much smaller. I mean, the house looked physically smaller. He stayed in his room, but his room looked practically infantile with a bunch of posters and junk that he no longer had any interest in. He didn't bother contacting any of his old friends from high school. He was 3 years out of high school. And over the intervening 3 years, we just dropped touch with him. His high school class graduated in May of 2025. While he was enjoying the pleasures of being a young footballer at Liverpool clubs, he wouldn't have traded that second experience for the first one. But what really bothered him was his parents. They still saw him as a 15-year-old kid, and he definitely was not. One day he had absentmindedly grabbed a beer out of the refrigerator, and the way his mother looked at him, "Henry, I didn't know you were drinking." Yeah, Henry thought, there's a lot you don't know about me. They hadn't asked him for any money. He knew that they were, things were tight, but in 1 year he'd earned over half of what both his parents could earn in a lifetime. Old habits died hard with his parents, but for Henry, those old habits were long dead and gone. He resolved next time he stayed in Shreveport, it was going to be at an Airbnb. Either that or he wasn't going to stay as long. And clubs began sniffing around now that Henry was on loan, with Sunderland in the Sky Bet Championship now taking a major interest in him. He had a decent chance of starting for Sunderland, which had finished 10th. In the meantime, he was selected to games with the U.S. national team. They would play games against Tunisia and the Netherlands as friendlies, and this opened the door that Henry might be playing in the Gold Cup in the summer. And that's the end of this episode. So, Sunderland is interested in Liverpool loan. Will other clubs be interested? What will Liverpool do with Henry Marshall? And what about his duty with the U.S. team? Anyway, if you like what you hear or see, make a comment or hit the like and or subscribe button. Until next time.